And we're back on Rethinking Life with your hostess, Michelle Laura Romero. Michelle Laura Romero.
That's it.
And
Welcome
I'm the
back,
special
David.
guest, David Fletcher. Nice to see you.
Good to see you again, David.
Good to see you again, Michelle.
Last time we got a little cut short, so we decided to do a part 2. Just to finish up, last time we were discussing David's book series. It's called Rexie Books. David has 2. He's a children's author, a 2-time children's author. He has written Rexie the Rat Killer and Rexie number 2. So we're excited to be talking to David again to hear about his journey. He's here to help inspire us, and we're here to help people who have thought about writing but haven't been quite sure how to start. David, I really appreciate you being here for a second time.
It's nice to be here.
Thank you. All right, so to get right into it, where, again, can people pick up your books?
Well, my understanding is the first book will be available through a link on the podcast site.
Yes.
Second book is available on Amazon. If you search Rexie number, like hashtag or #, Rexie number 2, David Fletcher. If you search on Amazon, it's available as a ebook and also as a paperback.
Perfect. So last time we were talking about the writing process, and we were really getting into kind of practical things that people can do when they're writing to kind of overcome the writer's block and just to basically get started. So maybe today we can get into more the process of, editing for the first time writer, and, we're going to break down some of these things that we did to help you so that you're not so overwhelmed when you want to start writing, because nobody knows where to start at the beginning. You just kind of have to muddle your way through and take one step at a time, not getting overwhelmed in the process. David, tell us a little bit about your editing for your books.
Process. What I have done is normally when I'm actually writing, I will, before I start each day, I'll read what I wrote the day before. And for me, as I do that, I can hear where, even though I'm not reading aloud, it's like, okay, change this, change that. I do most of my own editing beyond that, and I can take several runs through it and just, again, tweaking it here and there, sometimes dropping an entire paragraph, but there are people whom I trust, and I will reluctantly hand it off to them so they can tell me my problem, and I find that very useful. I've thought of using a professional editor, and ultimately I'm not sure where I stand on that, because it's like, well, do they get the vision? It would need to be the right person.
I could see that. Yes, I've had people very close to me read it through also, but that was actually before I had a professional editor go through my work, and that is a very interesting thing, because your book is basically your baby. It's something very special to you, and on certain levels you might think it's perfect just the way it is. It's hard to hand over that control to someone else. But if you want to get your book out there and you want to become a writer, then that's just something that you're going to have to do depending on who you have around you. If you don't have anyone, you can most certainly go on Google and Google some local editors. Get a hold of them, interview them, ask them what their process is. There's so many different types of editing, but that's what I did, and you really don't know what's going to happen with your work when it's in someone else's hands, but at some point, if you want to get it out there, you just have to let go and trust.
Right.
So
What did you learn in comparing as it came back from the editor? So now you're seeing how they changed your words. What did you find out from that process? What did that teach you?
I found out a lot about myself. At first, I just We had a conversation, and I also had the manuscript sent back to me. But in the conversation, I have to say, at first I was very closed off to any suggestions about the book. Hopefully it didn't come across that way. It may have, but again, that was my baby,
Right.
and I thought my baby was perfect.
Right.
Even though I really didn't, but I just didn't want to hear somebody else say it.
Right.
Then after I sat down and really took in what my editor said, I could understand, and he was right.
Yeah.
And so I went back through the book and changed some of the things that he said. It was more like my tone. Sometimes when I write, it's very straightforward and maybe a little harsh. And he thought that if I could just soften the message a little bit, which I understand that. Sometimes we are very straightforward, me, and then sometimes. So yes, I softened the book up, and it made it better.
Yeah.
And we went through that a few times, just back and forth, and we built trust. And so he will be who I'm sending my second book to as well. Absolutely.
Okay, but so second book, how is that changing how you're writing the second book? How is your initial draft of the second book different than your initial? Like, are you more what you think is on target per the suggestions?
I still tend to write in the same manner. Some of it is very gentle and everything, and then other parts I know. Writing is emotional, so
Right.
it's just trying to be consistent with the message throughout, and I do reread it all the time. If I'm having a little bit of I need to get started again, I basically read, like you were saying, the paragraph before, and then, let me add this, let me take this out. But I don't get too hung up on it because I just want to get the manuscript done, and we could sit there and dwell on paragraphs over and over and over. It's not very helpful.
Right.
So I just make myself move on and say, okay, well, that's something that I can look at
Right.
later on.
Right.
But just keep writing. Don't keep writing about the same thing over and over, but just move on to the next chapter.
Right.
And I skip around.
Yeah.
Like at my first book, I literally went from the very beginning of the book all the way to the end.
In order.
In order, and just wrote it. In the second book, I'm not really doing that. I have all of my chapter titles right away.
Yeah.
So I broke it down that way. And I know
okay.
what major points I want to make, and then I went through and I literally just have like one-word sentences, points, broken down a little
You've
more.
created an outline.
Somewhat. And then I'll throw new stuff in there as I'm thinking of it.
I like that idea. I have used an outline on book 2 and now on book 3. I've already written the final chapter, so I kind of know where I'm headed. I know how it ends. But there's also the aspect, maybe not with a book such as yours, but in fiction, characters. I read this and I thought, the guy, that woman, whomever is talking out of their backside, but I found out that for me it was true. Characters reveal themselves, like things that you didn't know about them. It's like you think, well, you're the author, of course you know about them, but it just happens, and so you can't plan for everything in fiction, but you never know.
So you may have a professional go through it? Are you going to think about it?
My perception is at this point I can't afford it, but I have a few people who are very qualified to do it, and they will do it for free.
That is another
Free is a
perception. That
very
is
good
the
price.
perception. That's interesting that you brought up the price, because you don't necessarily know unless you.
Right.
I kind of thought in my mind a price, and it may not be the case.
Right.
You don't know until you get out there and really talk to people about it. And
Yeah, you don't.
so, worth a shot.
Absolutely.
All right. So publishing. You self-published your books.
Correct.
Okay. And I did so as well. For anyone that really wants to get their work out there, it's the quickest way to make sure it gets done. And now that technology is so readily available to everyone, there's nothing keeping us from our dreams. And
Anyone can do it. It's kind of like the record business. Before you needed a record company. In books, you needed a publisher, and it's simply not true. Anyone can publish. And there's more than one example out there of people who started out self-publishing, and then eventually they attracted enough attention and enough sales that an old school publisher picked them up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like if you're getting paid, Amazon is a real publisher. Let's be.
yes, that's true.
So, anyone can. There's no barrier to entry,
Mm-hmm.
and people need to remember that. It's not 50 letters of rejection anymore before somebody finally says yes.
Exactly. And then you can do your own marketing. Is that something that you have been doing?
I have found a lot of ways that don't work.
Yeah, well, that's how you find out ways that do work.
See, yeah, I'm Edison, only I haven't come up with, the first 9,000 ways that the light bulb doesn't work yet. I'm a little behind the curve on that, but I think more than anything, that's the exciting part about publishing today, or any project where you're trying to get the public to pay attention to what you're doing. Is social media, to a large extent, is free.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can purchase. I have purchased ads on Facebook, but when a tweet, if you get that right tweet and somehow it goes viral, the right person looks at it, it changes everything. It's just a matter of, can you drive people to your in my case, my link on Amazon. That's what I have to do, is get people to go there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Remember to fill out your author's page too. If you do publish on Amazon, every little thing that you do with that helps. And social media was something that I wasn't into for a long time. I kind of stepped away from it. But after I wrote the book, then I had to get back on it full force and just be consistent with it. That's what I found is you have to be consistent to be relevant with anything.
Right.
And you never know where it's going to lead. Like maybe I didn't necessarily, I wasn't trying to be an author. I had other things that I wanted to do, but I knew that this was one step that I needed to take to get me
to get your message out.
Yeah, to get my message out, basically, to get started. And so you never know if you never know what's going to happen. You can't connect the dots forward. You always have to look backward and connect the dots.
Right. And you don't know. That's why the consistency is so important, because you don't know which tweet or which post on Instagram or which post on Tumblr or whatever avenue you choose. You don't know which one is the one.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
I've actually been charting all of my social media.
This is what the professionals do. Do it this way, not the way that...
I've been charting all of my number of posts and podcasts and every social media outlet, charting it and then seeing how it corresponds to book sales as well. Because you don't know. I mean, there has to be some sort of measurable, I have a more like a mathematical mind with things like that, and I do study a lot about it. So
you're doing analytics.
Yes, doing analytics on everything and seeing what happens as a result.
Right.
Still playing around with it, but patience. It's a patience game.
Yeah. Yes, I'm still working at the casino. Thank you.
What did you learn about yourself during this whole process?
I think one of the most important things that I learned, and it's so obvious to say it in the light of day, but is that it reinforced the idea of, even at an advanced age, you can become better at things, you can learn, you can still learn. It's like, when I look back at the progression on the 3 books, it's like I'm so much better at it now. And so that's been really valuable. It's just like reinforcing that idea. You can continue to get better. You're not, your brain isn't fixed. I learned that. I learned to trust myself a little more. You know, when I wrote the ending of book 2, I hadn't written any of the rest of it. And one day I was sitting there at work, and all of a sudden I got this idea, and so I furiously scribbled it out in a spiral notebook, you know, just writing as fast as I could. And it's like, it was right. And it's just like, but there'd be times during the process when I got stuck writing book 2. It's just like, how do you get there? But and so I would say those 2 things mainly, you know, that we're not fixed at this point in life. We can get better at things, and, you know, have more trust. It's like, no, I'm right about this.
Now, did you always feel, was this always inside of you? Or do you think that your journey through life and different experiences that you've had really led you to this?
It would have to be the latter, because I tried to write a form of this book. I hadn't met the dog at that point. I was like 21 years old. I tried to write a form of this book decades ago, and it was, my intentions were good, but I didn't really have any idea. I needed more life experiences.
I can see that.
You know, I suppose, you know, there's people who are very successful younger. For me personally, I needed to just see more things, interact with more people, read more, and so that I was more prepared, more in a position to do the work. I couldn't get there at 21, but
even though on some level you wanted to.
Oh yeah, no, I played with it for a good 2 weeks. So, but it's like the idea at the time was a good idea. It was intriguing. It's like when I told people about it, that one happened to be about a cat. So, you know, I'm stuck on this theme, you know, of household pets, evidently. But, you know, people like, when I told them this is the basic idea, they go, okay, you know, and I don't think they were just being kind. You know, you can read that. And so they, you know, but no, I couldn't figure it out. I had no idea what to do with it. I was like, oh, I got this one good idea. I had never written anything more than, you know, like a 2-page report. You know, so okay, one good idea doesn't, you know, you can't just put that on the cover and have an empty book and sell that. And people go, look at his idea, you know.
Oh, I get that. Do you feel like there's a lot of your life in the book?
A little bit. One time I was having this conversation with my oldest son and my brother-in-law, and my brother-in-law, bright guy, and he goes, so which character are you in the book? And both my son and I immediately, you know.
He already knew too?
Oh, my son, yeah. He's like, the dog, you know, but I'm pretty much every character.
A different facet of your personality.
Exactly, yeah, you know, to some extent, so much, you know, at least at this point in life, I'm writing, I mean, it's a book about a talking dog, so it's a damn lie, but I'm writing about things that some of it is things that I actually experienced or participated in. And so, yeah, you're going to want to read book 3, you know. Yeah, there's, yeah. You know, right place, the right time. I've witnessed some things in my life. Anyway.
I could see that. What does the future look like, David? Book 3.
Book 3. Since I found out a lot of ways how not to market a book, I have a new plan. There is I guess the buzzword is influencer. You know, someone that's more famous. I have a person in mind that hopefully their word will count much more than me, saying, hey everyone, come read my book. If this guy says, you want to read this book. So that's, at the rudimentary level, that's the plan. I have story ideas for at least 20 more of these.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of ideas, and some of them won't fly, but some of them will. I think it's important to jot something down, use voice memo on your phone. You want to, because those ideas, they come and they go, and if you don't write it down, it's like, because you never know how you're going to be able to use, something might not seem, you can't see, well, I could use this in that paragraph or whatever. You might not know at the time, or it might not be for this book, but it might be useful later on. I think it's important to just keep track of little things, because then sometimes you go, oh, that's where I'm using that.
I've been playing with the idea of a bulletin board for a long time. A bulletin board?
No.
And a lot of Post-it notes or something.
No.
I'm not sure.
No, because I was listening to an interview with the creators of Broadchurch. Yeah, that's what it's called. The show on Netflix. And they talked about when they sat down for the coming season, they had a room with whiteboards all around. Well, because it's like if you're planning a 12-episode arc, it's like, okay, how is this going to fit in? And is this you might have a great idea, but it doesn't belong anywhere. And so, but yeah, I think a bulletin board, it is possible that my domicile has ideas tacked to the wall. And so, yeah, but when people come over that don't know me, it's disconcerting, because it kind of looks serial killer-y. No, I've seen the looks on people's faces. They're going, and they're just, how fast can I back out and not have this guy attack me with a knife? And I understand, but it's just the only thing I don't have is the yarn connecting ideas. No, I failed. Yes, but depending on how someone's brain works, I need the visual, and if you do, then you have to. Well, you don't have
Because I think the electronic is nice for quick little sentence, write down quick little sentences. But as far as trying to organize something into
exactly
something movable,
yeah, very much so.
then you need more,
Yeah,
some direction.
right.
Like even what I was talking about with the marketing, to keep yourself on task. Now, how many of these do I need to do?
Right.
Am I hitting all of those goals? It's something that needs to be in front of you, not an idea on a phone.
Right.
So that's where my mind is in the process.
Well, I agree. I'm sure there's other ways to do it. Well, this is what works for me.
We're figuring out the process
Yes.
as it's going on here. What is your mission? Do you feel like this, your life has been leading you up to this point with the writing, and the writing is a culmination of all of your experiences
Right.
So where do you see this other part?
To me, the writing isn't the be-all, end-all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are things that I would like to do based upon the writing creating that situation for me. Some of it on a very small scale, for my family. I have aspirations of, I would like to influence other people. That's kind of,
Be a positive influence.
Well, yeah, I know.
people's
I'm like
lives.
thinking about that, saying that out loud. Oh, yes, I know better than you. Okay, so.
No, you just have had different experiences
Right.
that can help guide other
Right,
people.
exactly. And so it's hard to predict, it's all about.
I think we all want that. I mean, it's like, didn't you want mentors and people to look up to get you
Absolutely.
through this crazy life? And so
I-
it's like giving back to the people in that way because it's something you're still seeking yourself.
Right. I think, my view of life is we have that obligation. If there's someone, if you have the ability to help them get closer to where they're trying to get to, then for the most part you should do it. But I agree with the mentor thing. I'm just thinking yesterday, and this guy whom I admire was talking about a person who was a mentor. He called him Miss Yoda, and it's just like, oh, okay. I didn't even think about him needing a Yoda. It's like in my mind, well, this guy is, really
This
good.
guy is Yoda.
He is, but he freely confessed, no, this is the person that helped him with all parts of the process, whether it's the writing or the marketing. And so it's like, logically, that guy had a Yoda, but you don't even, and then going the other direction, okay, this one, whomever helps me, but then I in turn have an obligation to help someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for someone else's generosity. I've talked freely about it that at different points in my life I've paid for mentors and coaches and things like that. I think it's very important. We waste a lot of money on things that don't matter, and when we want information that can change our lives, what's wrong with paying for it? I think that it's fine,
Absolutely.
however you need to. I mean, if you have someone close to you that is able to guide you, then perfect.
great,
but if
but-
not,
Right,
find someone.
find someone.
Mm-hmm. Which all of the social media has made it so
Yeah.
easy. And then that's what David and I are here for. We're here to help in any way that we can, lead people in a direction to expressing themselves through the written word.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing.
I do too.
Um,
I think bad things, but keep going. It's like all of a sudden we were knocking on someone's door. Hi, we're here to talk to you about writing.
Hi, yes, we are.
Do you have an editor? Let us tell you about our church. It's not a church, okay? I swear to God, dang. There's a neighborhood right over there.
Oh, we are.
You could just start knocking doors. Hi, we'd like to talk to you about writing.
We would, because we know there's a writer in a lot of people.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people
Yeah.
have stories to share.
Yeah.
And you do it in a humorous way, and I do it in a more serious way, but
I wish I could have witnessed the conversation between you and your editor, where the editor was attempting to gently soften some of your prose.
it was me being very quiet.
Okay, I believe you. Anyway.
It was, he's a great person. I'm very grateful, and that's one of my Yodas, is my editor.
There you go.
He's a good person.
I get it.
So, if you, I got to show the book because I just
Please.
love the cover. I love the cover. Rexie #2 available on Amazon right now. We're gonna put a link at the bottom so that you can get a free copy
Of book one,
of book one,
not book
written
two.
by David Fletcher.
I'm David Fletcher. And what you want to read is
You wanna read both of
Rethinking
them?
Life.
The guidebook for recreating your life and winning the game.
How would our viewers get a hold of this book?
They would also find it on Amazon. Or you can
There
go to
you go.
MichelleLauraRomero.com and order. It'll send you to a link over to Amazon. But this book, what my journey has taught me is I had so many things in my way that didn't even make it possible for me to write. You know, my finances were a mess, so I could never afford to publish a book. My health was not that great, which sidetracked me into thinking about that all the time, so that I didn't feel well enough to even write. And some of the relationships that I had in my life, in every aspect, were not conducive to writing a book. So once I cleared out all of these distractions and got myself in order, that's when the book came to me and presented itself. And then I just started writing my story. So if you are struggling with any of these same things, you know, you're in consumer debt, your health isn't very well, you don't know how to set goals, you're not sure what your purpose is, then that's what Rethinking Life is all about. And everyone that we have on the podcast is here to help you clear out these things in your own minds and your own self-limiting beliefs and everything that gets in our way of living our best life and living our purpose. To me, you can't live your purpose if you have all these issues going on, because they keep you down. They keep your energy down.
You have to start somewhere, because you can't just go, oh, okay, I've rethought my life. One day later, now I'm ready, I've got it all straightened out.
No.
But you can move forward as you resolve the issues.
Yes, basically. And it doesn't happen overnight. But if you're not sure where to start, then the book really does help you rethink everything you've been taught and how you've been living. And it's my journey, and it might help you, and it's definitely going to make you think about what you're doing,
Absolutely.
if nothing else.
Yes.
David, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to share?
Mm-mm.
Thank you for coming back
Thank
for
you.
part 2.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you. All right. Thank
All
you,
right.
everyone.